For me, so hi everyone. Good to see you. I'm Daum. It's Daum in Korean. I'm a Korea-born, Qingdao, China-raised, and Japan-based East Asian. And currently, I am doing my PhD under Kokuda Sensei. Hopefully, it's my final year at Keio. And I'm researching on a trust formation among strangers using digital platforms, which I think is highly relevant to your work at the lab with Professor Han. And I run this lab called Digital Architecture Lab, which is like a think tank that focuses on emerging technologies and how it could be translated into societal and humanistic values. And previously, I worked for the IOC for 4 years, working for their global social media. And in my free time, I create videos and do some reporting work to introduce some ethnic enclaves around the world.
Wow, that's awesome. It's very impressive.
And Jiro, would you like to introduce?
Yeah. I mean, no. Continue. Sorry.
Jiro, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Excuse me for jumping in. I am co-author to the paper that you kindly read for us. I am supervising Daum at the Keio University PhD program. At the same time, I've been in the business of researching around digital economy for the last 30 plus years. And currently, in terms of Web3, I chaired a government committee on the study of Web3 2 years ago. So that's the context that I'm involved in. But it's really nice to be with you and exchange ideas. So looking forward.
I'm very happy you can join us. Professor Han, do you want to say anything before we start?
Okay, it's very nice meeting you, the both of you. So I'm the Hanuk Park. I am the director of the Cyber Emotions Research Center, and I'm also professor in the Department of Media and Communication and graduate studies of digital convergence business, and then East Asian cultural studies. So my primary, affiliation is media and communication, and my joint appointment with the digital convergence business as well as the East, Asia cultural studies. And I very much enjoyed reading your paper. So I decided to contact you because I have been doing, Web3 technology in terms of the academic research as well as the policy, committee. So I'm really like to, hear about the development of the Web3, in particular DID, decentralized ID system. It's a very unique case in Japan, and then I really like to, visit you in some time, and then my research team is composed of the, very much international. So here, the Catherine He, she's American, and then some people is from Philippines, and some other people from, like the Brunei, and there are 2 Korean, researchers, and then they can speak English, Chinese, and Japanese. So, we are very much international here. So, but I'm looking forward to having a lecture, today. Thank you very much for coming.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
So, if you're ready, Ms. Kim, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Got it. So I haven't really synced with Jiro before this. So Jiro, I would just call on you whenever I think you should chip in. All right, let me share my screen. So I thought that this presentation would be quite meaningless if I just go through the paper that we wrote. So I kind of scoped out a little bit, and hopefully I could give you some insights of the current Web3 and DAO communities that are actively being used for revitalizing local communities, and also to talk a little bit about the importance of having East Asian sensibility being implemented in the design of digital architecture. So these four buttons, I think would be familiar for most of you or all of you here. I would be surprised if you're not. So it's buttons that you see on Instagram. And when these buttons are combined, do you know what they're called?
Engagement buttons.
Exactly. So they're often referred as engagement or engagement rate. And when I was working at the Olympics and also in any kind of social media world, this is how we quantify people we've engaged with and reached. But I mean, I'm sure you guys know more about this than I do, but what is really engagement? Can a simple metrics that sums up the number of likes, comments, and shares truly be considered as engagement? And for me, this approach feels like we're diminishing the essence of human interactions that leads to interpersonal relationship with our audience. And these metrics often fail to capture the depth and the quality of user interaction, which reduce the complex human experience to quantifiable data points. And this form of reductionism overlooks this our essence as human engagement, and this involves more of a nuance and meaningful interactions that we have as human is more than these metrics that's currently being represented. So these leads to a broader discussion about digital platform as a whole. So platform providers often prioritize profits over privacy and social welfare. And this is resulting in divisive content, social polarization, and also the users do not have any clarity of how their data is being collected and how it's being used. And these tech giants, with their extreme concentration of gathering data, generating more revenue from our information, there's rising concern that because of this lack of transparency and awareness of how these data is being monopolized, we are perhaps really losing what the values that we have as human beings. So this relentless pursuit of individual self-interest has led to several externalities and complex issues that we're facing in today's society, which is threatening the very essence and the existence of human civilization. So today, throughout this presentation, I would like to highlight three key themes. So first, we'll be exploring how new technology powered by Web3 provide a mechanism to safeguard individual dignity. Then, with this protection in place, we will discuss how we can proactively encourage people to continue creating communal value, which is essential, and there are some good cases that's emerging in Japan. And finally, I would be addressing how DAOs, which is communities powered by Web3, play a role in revitalizing local regions, and how this is related to the East Asian sensibilities into this current Western-dominated digital world. So we need to go beyond this pursuit of efficiency and revenue. And to do this, we need a new architecture, as you have already read in the paper, that incorporates this complexity of our time along with these social and technical trends. And in other words, there has been a need for us to protect the value, the dignity of the individual, while addressing tech giants that's taking advantage of data's network externality to build and profit. However, this must be done while preserving this essential value created from this accumulated and community-oriented work. So let me start with this concept of self-sovereign identity as discussed in the paper. So self-sovereign identity represents a decentralized model that empowers individuals and entities to manage their own digital identities. So there are various definitions of SSI. A common philosophy is in there, which is that individuals and entities ought to control their identity management instead of depending on centralized authorities. And SSI aims to enhance control over users' data, bolstering privacy and security in the digital realm. And I know that Korea has already been proactively doing this with the 운전면허증, the driver's license being on blockchain, and also the coup for the vaccine record. So Korea has actually been one of the pioneers who has been pioneering the implementation of SSI at a government level. Now, SSI implementation, although there are some other applications, it's still predominantly within the Web3 context, where it finds its most significant resonance. So in the Web3 community in particular, it embraces SSI as this quintessential approach to realizing true self-sovereignty over identity. But this leads us to wonder whether SSI as a design philosophy could serve as a way for us to go against the data monopolizer and protect individual rights and freedoms in the digital age. And there are two tools that are essential in achieving SSI. So first is what you see on the left side, the decentralized identity, which serve as a mechanism that reduce reliance on specific identity provider for managing users' digital identity. This is what enables users to create and control their own identifiers without depending on centralized authorities. And what you see on the right side is verifiable credentials, which often being used for NFT-based degree that's being issued in universities. And this provides the means to prevent verifiable information about these subjects. So for example, an individual can use their DID to assert their identity as the subject of VC, which might contain details about their qualifications or skills. And the authenticity of this information can be verified by the issuers through VC. And this VC can also be securely stored and managed, and this is often used by a blockchain, and it maintains the integrity of the information that this VC encapsulates. Now, this is how SSI can be realized under national sovereignty. Now, in an SSI system, there can be mechanisms to mediate the creation and verification of identifier keys and the other essential data for utilizing VCs. And this infrastructure might encompass VC schemas, which dictate the credentials format and structures, and public key for credentials of authenticity and verification. And what you see on the middle top, the trusted third party, which is often authorized by the nation, plays a role in storing and managing this data. And this repositories can range from blockchain-based database or even government ID databases to distribute to ledgers, among the others. And it's typical for SSI ecosystem to leverage a variety of verifiable data to ensure that a robust and more dependable digital identity management system. Jiro, is there anything you want to add about this? Okay. All right. And for individuals to use this VC, they must first establish and maintain their identity. And this process usually involves generating unique identifiers and key, along with the attribute information that describes that individuals. And here, once again, this trusted third party, it's in this context might be a consortium or blockchain, although there are instances where blockchain is not utilized or used at all. Now, then what are the benefits of SSI? First, it enhances personal information protection. So basically, it enables you to, or it empowers individuals to manage their own personal information, and it gives you an option to opt in and opt out. And the system itself enhances privacy and provide a defense against identity frauds. And it also increases security as a result that the system mitigates the risk of centralized points of failure by decentralizing the identity management. And this improves the overall security and diminishes the likelihood of data breaches and other security vulnerabilities. And last but not least, it improves the interoperability that the system fosters interoperability along with other online services, applications, and systems. And this more of a seamless integration facilitates more easier access and use for individuals. And this is what really makes it easy for people to be able to share when it's needed, but protect when it's not necessary for them to share the data. Now, this Mebuku project is something that Jiro has been working on for years, I believe. And this is one of the case studies that we've done in the paper, that this is a company in Japan that issues certificates that's anchored in the national identity system. And it allows users to access various systems without disclosing any personal information, while providing this data sources that assures that the user's existence, that this user is a real person, is verifiable and traceable. And this case is actually very similar to KOOF, the Korean vaccination certification system, that enables users to selectively disclose their attributes to service providers. And Jiro, would you like to take this one, or should I go ahead? Okay. All right. So this is actually something that I've been learning, and I learned from Jiro, so I'll try my best. So this Mebuku ID is a eKYC system, Know Your Customer system, based on two key components. So first is personal credentials generated within the hardware security modules of a phone. And the second is the certification by the national PKI, which is the public key infrastructure. And the credential itself does not contain the individual's personal data. So while the recipients of the credentials can confirm the entity's legal existence, they cannot actually directly access for further personal information without engaging other institutes that actually holds the data. And this Mebuku data management server, they also issue tokens that facilitate the data exchange among service providers. And this is also based on opt-in permission registered on its server by the users. I know this is lots of architecture and technology behind it, but in this process, what we learned is that we should not be overlooking the value that's actually being created. I mean, there has been lots of misusage because of the tech giants, but there's lots of value that is getting created with the data that's shared, that's aggregated, that encourages the participation, which is actually an essential information for designing a better society. So now we have this mechanism where we could protect the individuals. We wanted to propose that there is a need for an incentive mechanism to encourage people to voluntarily share their data with this safe measure. So in the paper, we propose that the platform should be designed to empower individuals with selective data sharing capabilities while ensuring the safety and build trust among data sharers. So this society as a whole needs to foster a culture in parallel that values and even rewards the altruistic data contribution that's being made for the common good. And this should be supported by the trust in the technologies, which in protecting the data, but also in people recognizing the need of having this joint community data that's shared to design a better future. So there needs to be an education and this nurturing that needs to play behind in normalizing this data sharing process, which we think that East Asians' perspective plays an important role, while this tangible reward mechanism can also be playing a role in contributing to this social welfare. And this is kind of like the mask wearing culture in Japan. So during COVID, mask wearing was never mandatory in Japan. I think Korea was, most of the countries it was, and in Japan, even the lockdown itself was not a mandatory thing. Also there was never a regulation that forced people to wear masks, but it was the country with the highest percentage of people wearing masks. And this wasn't simply to protect themselves, but more for the others. So it's in Korean, I think you say 민폐를 끼치지 않는다, and in Japanese we say 매화가 가게나이. So it's from this phenomena, I was like, how do we allow people to help one another voluntarily, just like how the Japanese did during COVID? And this concept of SSI is, although predominantly discussed within the blockchain community, I think it gives us a good insight of how we can overcome this. Alongside the necessity for some state regulations to prevent this malicious activities that's being used on identity and data, we also think that there is an importance that we jointly and collaboratively work on collecting and the safer data to improve the service provision and societal development. And given that now we possess a mechanism to protect privacy, we think that establishing a social structure to encourage this voluntary data sharing is equally important. And this is one of the advantages of Web3, that NFTs, for example, can be utilized to acknowledge these contributions, incentivize them, and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organization, can serve as an organizations that promote social sharing. So let me move on from this identity discussion to a more topic that I think would be related to the work that you're doing at the lab. And also I think Professor Park has been working a lot on the local activities. So I would like to talk a little bit about how Web3s and DAOs contribute to this communal participation and growth in Japan, and particularly in the context of regional revitalization. Now, many of you may wonder, like, why Japan is so proactively implementing Web3 and DAO in a national level. So it's interesting because Japan has actually been a safe place to start Web3 because of its strict regulation. I mean, we probably don't need to mention about the FTX issue that happened last year, and also the Tenarulu incident that Korea and the others have experienced. But Japan has been relatively well protected from these damages because of this series of measures that has been taking in shape to keep the Web3 system under this government control. So there are two things in particular. So one is there's a requirement for you to fill in the national ID to open any kind of exchange accounts. And the second one is you need to have require exchanges to maintain customer assets separately from their in cold wallets. And this, I think, regulations has actually safeguarded and opened up an opportunity for broader exploration of Web3's potential in a more of a societal and regional values that's beyond the financial incentives. And this is kind of different from US and Korea, where Web3, it's mostly for financial prospects. Like, and I know that you say blockchain had hit the record, and most people are just focusing on this, the profit that you gain from this cryptocurrency. In Japan, there is actually a growing openness and acceptance of Web3 that's for the societal good and less for the financial incentive behind it. So I guess all of you guys know what a DAO is. So DAO operates autonomously without a central authority. This is the community part of Web3, and it embodies the decentralized spirit of Web3. And in this ecosystem, SSI empowers users to control their personal data while also enabling this collective management of data for the benefit of the community through DAOs, which reintroduce a sense of community by encouraging individualistic members to support one another. Now, this is a Henkaku community that we're running for my other project. And this is a Discord server that we use. And as you could see, that there's lots of voting happening, lots of people on the right side, and a bunch of channels. Now we have channels that's accessible only if you have certain NFT. We do lots of voting. So whenever there is a new policy that needs to be introduced, it can only be registered when there is a consensus from the community. And for invitations, who are you going to invite to the community? That's also another thing that has to be voted and be agreed with the members. So this has been a relatively active and quite well-known Web3 community in Japan. And of course, as a community, there are tasks to be done. So we have this Henkaku token, but this Henkaku token has no monetary value at all, and it can't be converted into any fiat like money. But you can earn Henkaku tokens by working on some Henkaku community tasks. So this is a rough number, but if you work for about an hour, then you will earn around 100 Henkaku tokens. And if you work for 10 hours, then you have 1,000 Henkaku tokens. And with this 1,000 Henkaku tokens, you could get a ticket to invite a friend to the server. You can also use this token to participate in a tea ceremony or to join in an auction. Now, the beauty of this is you cannot buy this with any kind of money. It's even if you have, I don't know, 100만 원, 200만 원, these are the items and the experiences that can be purchased using the Henkaku tokens and by being an active community member. And we also do lots of voting using snapshots. So this is like the voting mechanism that we use. So the more tokens that you have, more voting rights you own for this community voting. But most for all the decision that gets made, we use snapshot to do the voting, and then we make the regulations and the policies based on this. Now, these Web3 tools that you just saw makes this community governance so much easier and fair and transparent that there has actually been lots of DAOs growing out in Japan because of this reason. And I think there are some great glocal, which I learned the word from Professor Park, that I think would be a good reference for Korea to learn. And I think local DAOs are actually the most popular and most valuable Web3 implementation Japan has at the moment. You'll be surprised. So these are the list of Web3 communities or NFT projects that are just for regional revitalization in Japan in 2024. Now, in Japan, there is this culture of wa. Wa, it's he in Chinese. It's 함께 할 때 함 in Korean. It's like a combination of harmony, peace, and balance. And this was established during the Asuka period in Japan. And this culture emphasized harmony within the group over the individual. And it avoids nuisance to others or 민폐 to the others. And it's not Japanese people through wa don't really express their own true feelings. And this underlying belief is that what is beneficial for the group in the long run will ultimately benefit the individual as well. That's why they 눈치를 봐 in this process, that it's not about themselves, but it's for the community good. And for example, in DAOs, there is this interest of all members must be promoted and rewarded and given for the operation to be transparent and fair. And this is actually quite similar to the Japanese culture that they've been having for years. So the concept of DAOs, I think, is not an unfamiliar concept for the Japanese people. So that with the blockchain and with the Web3 tools, it has actually has further exacerbated and also encouraged more a ethos that the Japanese people have been holding for many years. So this is one of the most typical and most famous example when you hear about Web3 and DAO. So this is Yamakoshi. This is an NFT project from Yamakoshi. So this is a remote village with only 800 residents, and they were actually at the verge of bankruptcy. And during COVID-19, they introduced this Nishikigoi, which is this ingo that you see, that enables you to become a digital villager of Yamakoshi. And as a digital villager or resident, you can vote, you can visit the neighborhood, and you can participate in their community projects. And this cob itself is also a symbol of Yamakoshi Mura, the village. And thanks to this project, people who previously had no idea what Yamakoshi was, and neither myself knew about this, have started to take interest. And now they have this goal of reaching 10,000 digital residents who they can actually actively vote in this community process, and people can actually, they are already visiting Yamakoshi as a tourist. And it has been being a key factor and a key example of how an NFT project have not only revitalized the local community, but have gained a global interest. Now, this is another project that started actually from our Henkaku community. So this guy is actually from the same school that Jiro and I belong to, has learned about Web3 from the Henkaku community, and he started this melon project. It's called Yubari Melon. So Yubari is a region, and they have also experienced similar issues with Yamakoshi with big financial difficulties. And they have the region decided to collaborate with this MeTown, which is the Web3 community, to launch this Melon NFT. And here, the melon NFT holders can track the growth of their melons and visit the sites. So they have this Discord community where they could see the melon in the greenhouse growing, how it's being raised, and also the grading of the facilities. And actually, you're just part of this whole growing process just by having this NFT. And eventually, you'll receive that melon at the end that you've been cultivating digitally. And this is a combination of digital and a face-to-face engagement where melon producers carries on with social events, so people can actually go and see their melon growing. So it has this hybrid approach has really been exciting many people who previously did not know about Yubari melon and how delicious they were to be participating in this melon growing project because of this NFT. Now, this is something quite similar. It's kokudaka. They're doing the same thing, but with rice. And this project started because of the income shortage that the farmers had in the northern part of Japan. So similar to the melon project, what happens is you could buy an NFT, which is the rice itself. But you don't buy it just like you buying a bag of rice from the shop. You buy it in advance. So you would buy this rice NFT in winter, and the farmers would use this money to grow the rice, and you could see the whole process, and everything's being recorded on chain of how your rice has been grown. And there is a chance that your rice might fail, but that itself is an experience for them, that although there is a risk involved in this project, people are gaining interest in, how this rice that I have in front of me has been grown. And people are actually enjoying this process of interacting with the farmers and getting to know the process that goes behind rice growing process. So this Kokudaka project is another project that's gaining attention. And here they also do lots of activities where if you promote the project on social media, they give you a stone, and if you receive 100 stone, that becomes a status. But once again, you can't buy that status. It's kind of like university degree. You can only buy it by actively participating in the project. And this is a project that my friend is running. This is Nakia. So Japan has lots of empty houses right now because of the decreasing population in suburb area. And this Akiya, which means empty house in Japanese, what they do is they buy or they find this empty houses, they renovate it to make it into a creative space for the artists, and it's reviving the rural areas, and it's also connecting people who came to that region to live in this Akiya for free or to be part of this artistic installation, but they also get an opportunity to engage with the local communities by living in this place. So they actually just bought a house a few weeks ago that they have started the renovation of this Akiya. And just one thing is you might wonder why you're buying an Akiya. Akiya doesn't mean that the house itself is free. It's actually just underutilized houses is also considered as Akiya. So there are cases where you would have to buy the property to renovate. And this last example that I'm going to show is the game project in Okinawa. So this is an in-person NFT experience, so that you have you get this base character to play the game, and then this is like an access ticket to go to Okinawa to participate in the game. And by going to different regions that has this NFC embedded tab, you could gain different items from different regions. But in order to collect these, sometimes you need to interact with this Mr. Banana juice. You have to interact to earn this hat, or you have to do beach pickup to earn this little item for the character. And it becomes more rare. The more items you have, the rarer that it becomes. That this is an example of how we've been using PFP, an in-person experience, and also a local tour experience to make people experience something that otherwise they can't experience, and also getting rewarded with a unique NFT. Now, saying all this, I think South Korea is still trying to figure out how DAOs fit within its laws, mainly in this business world. I think Japan is moving forward with laws to support these kind of DAOs, which is already showing a great example of how it's contributing to different regions. And it's also creating values in the field of education, job searching, and also villages. So I think that Japan might be the first country to have national laws for DAOs, and the Tamin당, which is the Liberal Democratic Party, has just started this DAO 협회 in April 1st to proactively set regulations and rules for DAOs. So what does this all mean, and what can we learn or what can we improve from the Japanese cases? So returning to our initial discussion on engagement, while these tech giants, mostly from the West, have dominated and overly simplified human experience with metrics for their own benefit, we're now in an era where Web3 enables us to protect individual dignity. And at the same time, it offers new opportunities for community growth and encourage more altruistic participation. So this isn't motivated by any monetary incentives or the pursuit of increased revenue from participation. Instead, it aims to reconnect with time-honored values and practices in personal, familiar, social, and even in political spheres. And this doesn't mean that the robust individuality or personal rights against authority should be neglected for these community values. But we are now in an era where we have finally found the balance between these two. So one of my favorite academic, she's Bing Song. She's a Chinese that works at the BI Institute. She highlights the importance of bringing gongsheng, it's gongsheng or kyosei in Japanese. And I don't know which language to say. I'll just say in Korean. So this gongsheng derives from a biological concept of symbiosis that emphasizes the possibility of the interdependence and mutual existence of all entities. Like in Confucianism, like Taoism or Buddhism, this notion of gongsheng, it challenges the traditional notion of individuality, that being coexist, co-become, are deeply interconnected within the natural world, just like how the Dao examples that we just saw has been setting an example of how gongsheng can be achieved in the era of Web3. At the same time, and reflecting the meaning of gongsheng, this doesn't mean that individualistic senses are gone. This is a worldview where all creatures, plants, and even inorganic elements are respected and cared for their own dignity. And so gongsheng at the end is a harmony of and an ethical living that arises from recognizing and honoring the interconnectedness of all aspects of the cosmos and also respecting the individual dignity. For a long time, I've been pursuing how we can build a better world across cultures. And I have been paying a lot of attention in building these lines, connecting these lines between dots. And I think in the West, you see, like, for example, in social networks, you are an individual, and the goal of a community is to connect these people directly. But when we talk about this gongsheng, perhaps it's not about connecting these dots, but looking into this white spaces between the dots and appreciate the value of this emptiness or space, because this is actually where identities and our values could submerge and create oneness. So I think what's needed right now, and the world has finally started to recognize the importance, is that it's not just about tangible or visible aspects of existence, but it's more about this intangible and unseen, the spaces in between, the moments of pause, and the relationship that binds us. And I think this is an important timing, an important stage for the world to see this Eastasian value that we hold. And as a university in Korea and as somebody who belongs to a university in Japan, I hope that instead of being too driven away by the Western tech giants, relentlessly like pursuing efficiency, proficiency, and profit, perhaps I think we should pause, explore, enjoy the space in between, respect, and co-live together. And I think there are already examples being set on this in the Web3 communities. And perhaps that's the ethos that Web3 is bringing back to Asia, that the world has finally started to pay attention to. So yeah, I'm really excited that finally I have a chance to hear from a Korean university of like what's going on and also how we can work together to bring East Asia together to share the importance of East Asian values for the world in this tech giant dominated society.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.